I look, you, camera? You, okay.
Great question.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry.
No, okay. My name is Rachel Ostro. I'm the CEO of Valeria Inc. and Creator Method. Valeria Inc. is an influencer agency, only surrounded by one macro creator named Valeria Lipovetsky. And then Creator Method is a course and community that we built together, and we manage about 400-ish creators.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the key traits or mindset shifts that allow a creator to turn their personal brand into something scalable and strategic?
Yeah. So a creator has to think of themselves as a CEO. And that's the biggest mindset shift, is that they have to think of themselves as a leader, leading a space, whatever that looks like for them, and they have to invest into that, just like a CEO would. So the biggest thing for me is, as soon as you have profit, I know it's hard, but once you're able to pay off what you need to, any profit other than that needs to be reinvested back in, whether that's infrastructure, hiring, your own growth, training, public speaking, coach, whatever that looks like, it needs to be reinvested back into yourself, or you just won't grow. You'll be a creator, and I love the shift between creator into a person of interest, or into a businesswoman or a business leader. In order to do that, you have to invest back in.
Nice. And do you think that the content in which the creator speaks about or that they create, do you feel like that needs to evolve or shift, or like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think people, or a lot of creators or people, overthink it a lot. And really the best way to shift it is, as you shift, your content should shift. And we were talking about this, but storytelling, and I don't like the word authenticity because it sounds like a buzzword, but it's true. It's you shouldn't manufacture anything in this space. You shouldn't pretend to be somebody that you're not, have interests that you don't actually have interest in. So you should evolve and keep going. And even Valeria, who I work with, she's constantly evolving. And I think that that's part of both being a creative in this space, but also having that CEO mindset of, my audience is going to get tired or is going to fatigue out of the content that I create, or brands or whatever your monetization model is will end up becoming stale or drying up if you're not evolving. So you always have to look at it like, okay, what's next? And what's biggest? And a really good example of that is, you have to understand what your biggest North Star is. So that's the first thing I ask anybody is, where do you see this going? What monetization models do you think of? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to have a TV show? What is that kind of crazy blue sky vision of yours? And you have to make sure that you're always doing things that are going to lead up to that.
Wow. And through that process, do you think that creators should be allowing their audience into their life fully, from a perspective of sharing every aspect about who they are and what they enjoy, or should they keep kind of a limit on that?
Yeah, I think there should definitely be a boundary. I think you'd be surprised that the creators you think that you see everything, it's probably a 20% fraction of what they're actually doing and what their day looks like. So I do think a really healthy balance is important. I've seen creators get lost in showing everything, and then they've kind of lost their own personal intention with their day, their life, their goals, because it's all for the purpose of filming and creating content for their audiences. So I definitely think having a boundary, it's going to look different for everybody, depending on what their model is, what their audience is, what their content is about, but definitely having that boundary. A big one for people is sharing kids or sharing their family life or anything there. And so once you make that decision, that's already that first boundary that has really been expanded. But even within that, you can set your own boundaries. So I definitely believe in that.
Nice. You lead the Creator Method. What's one surprising thing that you've learned about what creators really need to succeed beyond just growing their follower count?
Yeah, I could talk about this for 5 hours, so I'm really going to try to think through it. I think the biggest thing is that they need community over vanity metrics. You'll be surprised, even people with 2, 3, 4 million followers are lost if they don't have the support of a community. That can be a partner, that can be a group, that can be a peer group, that can be a company, that can be a friend. But without that community and that support, it's really hard to actually grow a business in this capacity, in this environment. So definitely community. And when I say vanity metrics, it's followers. You think, oh, somebody has a certain amount of followers, they must have everything, figured out. And it's actually a lot of the time the smaller creators who have a more defined sense of what they're looking for. So the vanity metrics of how many views you got or how many people that you're reaching or how large your audience is definitely less important than the community that you surround yourself with. And that's honestly what Creator Method is. We launched it and we said, okay, we definitely want to do a course because we have all these fundamentals and we have all these elements that we want to teach people. But what we really think is missing is the support. And that's where the in-person, the events, we have Slack channels, and they're going at all hours of the night, messaging each other, supporting each other. So it's that support and community that's the biggest one.
Nice.
Yeah.
So with the Creator Method, obviously you're getting support from people with experience.
Mm-hmm.
But what trait, you mentioned having a spouse or a friend
Yeah.
or some sort of support from a community
Yeah.
perspective, what are the traits of that community that would help for a creator to kind of stay in line and
Yeah.
continue to grow?
You need cheerleaders. And so you need people that are going to support you and hype you up. I think when you're putting yourself out there and you're creating content, I know it can be scarier for other people. Like, I'm not scared of that, but for other people, that's a really scary thing to do. And so you need people that are going to hype you up. So you need hype women, hype men, whatever that looks like. And it's not, celebrities have always had that. And managers or assistants or literally musicians who have hype people, they've always had that. So it's that same kind of thought process, but with us, it's kind of the mentor of me and my two co-founders, and then the other community members. So you have the people who have the experience, but then you have the people who are also doing it alongside you. And so having that split is really nice. And then the other biggest thing is you really cannot care what people think. And again, I know that that's easier said than done, but you will not survive. And I don't even mean thrive. You will not thrive or survive in this business if you're going to be bogged down by that one negative comment or that one person. I don't know why, but all of the creators always talk about like that mom at drop off or their sister-in-law, like this one person that, maybe judges them for putting themselves out there and creating content. And then you can obviously scale that to once you have an audience. There's so many eyeballs looking at your content. The best creators that I've seen succeed, they post and they go. Like, they don't think about it, they just do it, and they know that the more they do it, the better they're going to get, and they don't concentrate on the numbers.
Yeah, so they think about it more like it's black and white.
Yeah.
They're happy about what it is that they're posting, but
Yeah.
they know that that's just a part of
Yeah.
what they want to share. And
Yeah. The only thing you can control is how often and what you post. The rest you can't. You cannot control how it's going to do, how it's going to perform, how people are going to react. You can only control if you hit that button.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, we're going to move through. So, and that's a great topic. I feel like
I know,
as you're
I could say
talking
so
about
many
it,
things.
We can kind of like continue to pick away and dive into it, but I want to be mindful of your time.
Yeah, of course.
So what emerging trend or platform in the creator economy are you most excited about? And how are you and your team positioning yourselves to lead, your creators and then lead as a market leader through that?
Okay. So I have two answers. So one's a trend, one's a platform. The trend is collaboration. And this industry, and I think that being competitive is not cool anymore. And that's something that I'm really passionate about. I've always been passionate about, but it's really not cool. And it's really not cool in this industry because the more that we work together, the more that we collaborate, the larger the industry gets, the more money brands have and budgets to spend, the more success and performance that they see out of this creator economy, the more they're changing up their teams, changing up their infrastructures to meet the needs from this industry. So it's more than any other industry, honestly. It's collaboration's the only way for this to grow. So that's the trend that I love, and I think us doing this for so long and for a decade of our experience, this hasn't been around for that long, and so a decade in this industry is a long time, and so we've just seen that firsthand, that the more you collaborate and lift each other up, and when I say collaboration, it's literally create content with other people, do things like this, interview, show up, tag each other, promote each other, hype each other up, all of those things. And that's what, Creator Method ethos is definitely about. We interview everybody that comes in. And if anybody has that competitive edge, they're not welcome in the program. So that's definitely number one trend that I love seeing, because I think we're going to see a lot more of that as that competition starts to not be, cool and continue to not be cool. And then the second one, ChatGPT, as far as a platform, is an unbelievable tool for creators. And it's interesting because the one thing that's going to set us apart in this industry or in any other industry is that we are human. And so AI and technology is going to take over a lot of roles and a lot of jobs and a lot of different areas that everyone's worked in. But the one thing that does set us apart from AI is that we are human. And so on one hand, it's the human element that is not going to ever go away. And so I want people to think of ChatGPT as it's not a replacement of you. This is something that's going to make you better and more informed, and it's a tool. So an example of that is really using it to understand the data of your content, and that's how we're doing it. So you can input into ChatGPT your bottom performing pieces of content and your very top content that over-indexed for you, and you can say, what are commonalities and themes in both this top group and this bottom group that I can learn from to create more content. There is really smart ways that you can use ChatGPT to inform your content strategy, and I did that yesterday with a creator, and it was a fascinating takeaway of one of the commonalities of all her over-indexing content. So that's one way that people can use it. So I guess there's a long-winded answer, but ChatGPT, but using it correctly. So using it to enhance your strategy and really be an unbiased opinion, which I guess is the second thing, is it's so easy for creators to make assumptions, and we did this in the beginning before ChatGPT, make assumptions of, okay, this one video got low views, my audience must be fatigued about this concept, I'm not gonna do this anymore, or just make anecdotal observations about their content. And the nice thing about AI is that it doesn't exist, it's data.
Yeah. Long form versus short form.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that long form content is starting to have more of a place on Instagram,
yeah.
TikTok. YouTube has always been around. How do you feel like that fits in from a trend perspective, and do they all live together, or is one more valuable together, and why?
So I don't want this to sound daunting, but ideally you can create content in all of those capacities. So you can have long, you can have short, you can have really short micro content, because you don't know how the trends are going to evolve. So 5 years ago when we started, TikTok didn't exist, Instagram video and Reels didn't exist, and our entire business was built around photos and YouTube videos. And if we hadn't had YouTube and we didn't have any video presence whatsoever, I know it would have been a lot harder for our audience to adapt to video. And then because we had the long form, we had so much short form to cut from the long form once short form video took off. And now that long form is back, we have that library still of the long form that we can play with, and we've built an audience on YouTube. So ideally you can do all of it, because you never know what's gonna happen. And we're seeing that resurgence of long form content for sure coming back. But then, next week, 4-second content might be trending. So I've always said it's great to diversify the content, and the best way to do that and the easiest way is filming long form content for the purpose of cutting it into short. So you have the long format version, you put that on YouTube, you cut it up, you can cut it up in so many different ways for TikToks, for Reels, you can repurpose that content later on, and that's how I like looking at it. And then if you're already creating all the content, just posting it as an extra minute on each platform if you already have it. So all of it. And it's about the long game. And I think that that's what some creators kind of lose sight of, especially if they're seeing a big success. And we've seen that a lot with massive TikTok creators that really get famous, and they are propelled into fame and propelled into large audiences based off of, let's say, one content format that they have. But how long can one format really propel a career? So that's that shift into the CEO mindset of, you can be a famous creator, but if you want to make this a business and a full-time career for yourself, you can't just have that one piece of content or that one format that does well. It's the same as any company. If you launched only selling white t-shirts, or Kylie launched with only selling her lip kits, the business was only going to go that far. You have to be, rethinking and re-strategizing what your offering is constantly. I really believe that if you don't take care of your mental health and your physical health, you cannot be successful. And that might be a bold statement, but I just really believe that that's true. And I think that you're setting yourself up for failure, you're setting yourself up for burnout if you're not concentrating on especially your physical health. So that's just kind of something that I've seen. And whenever I've seen anybody, including myself, start to have a performance dip, it's usually tied to, whether it's out of their control or not, it's usually tied to something happening in their life that their physical or their mental health rituals have been dropped. And so I've seen that direct correlation. So I expect a lot from my team. It's a very high performing team. We talked a lot about how this industry changes 1 minute, 1 day to the next. So I do expect a lot, and that's definitely how I lead. But I also want everyone to understand that in order to function at that level, you have to take care of yourself. So the way that for me, Pilates, working out, eating healthy, whatever that looks like, is a way to keep me grounded in the routines that I know will help me in my personal life, my health, and my business. And so I definitely encourage that. I encourage, even with remote teams, if we don't have to look at a computer screen, let's go on a walk and talk to each other while we're on this call. I definitely encourage time off, because this is a 7 days a week business. And so one of the things I'm constantly asking my employees is, when's the last time you took a day off? It's a fun industry. You can get very easily wrapped up into working 50 days, 100 days nonstop. You're always posting. We post 24 times a day, 7 days a week. So it's very easy to get burnt out. So I definitely make sure to look for signs of that burnout. And when I do, it's time to take time off. So definitely a big proponent of like work hard, but know when to take that easy. Going away, whatever that looks like. I just had an employee who I clearly saw signs of burnout in, and I just made her take a Friday and a Monday off just for an extended weekend, and she came back 10 times more efficient than she was the week before. So I want to break that kind of notion that people think, time off means that you're not succeeding or you're not efficient. Sometimes it's actually the opposite.
Yeah. And I feel like, in many industries, but maybe it's just our culture where like exhaustion becomes like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
I'm working.
Yeah, like I haven't had a day off in so long, and that's not a flex, because you just can't be efficient. And I've seen that so much where people are working, but are they working smart? So I do an activity with my team every month and every quarter where I actually have them look at the activities that they're doing and what was the actual output of that work. And sometimes when you look at that, you realize you were in meetings a lot, or you were having a lot of conversations, but what was your actual output, or what did you learn that month? And then every quarter looking at, what did you do this month that didn't have to be you? And what can you potentially hand off to someone else? So that's how you grow. You grow by firing yourself from jobs and learning and evolving, not by overextending yourself and becoming exhausted.
Yeah, it takes a lot of self-awareness to get to that, or someone else as a mentor or whatever, identifying that for you.
Yeah.
Pushing you.
And the way that I do that, I'm a little bit like on the other end of things, but I'm so routine and I function so well on that my kind of workouts or those rituals, I do not break them no matter what. They are in my calendar. My team knows Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You cannot book a meeting with me between 9 and 10 a.m. And I don't break that. And as soon as I find myself being too tired to show up to any of those kind of rituals that I have, that's my first indication. So if you don't have any routines set for yourself, it's very hard to see when you're starting to break them. And then that burnout can kind of happen without you even realizing.
I really needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I'm like crazy about it. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. If you're crazy about your work, you also need to have that same attitude towards taking care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
What has challenged you the most in your personal or professional growth this past year?
It's how fast this industry evolves, which is why I love what I do, and is why my team loves what they do, because it very much, I always say to people when I'm interviewing them, my first question is, if the thought of working at a bank and punching in, punching out, doing the same thing every day appeals to you, this is definitely not the space. So I love that, and I think that most of my, if not all my employees love that about this business. But the biggest challenge is that no day looks the same. And so it's I call it flying the ship while building it. And it's just constant, and it's never ending. And there's no graduation from this, even with our Creator Method members. They're like, when do we graduate this program? We're like, I don't know, we've been doing it for 10 years and we're absolutely nowhere close. So we're not the right people to ask. So there's no end in sight, which is why it's so important to stay grounded in the routines and the vision that you have. But that's definitely the biggest challenge of team changes, landscape changes, new platforms, new trends, new businesses, new partners. I just completely changed the way that we approach our partnerships with most of our brands. That's a massive change for my entire company. So it's just navigating that change And navigating that change while you also have a family life and 2 kids is just constant change. And so it's constant change management that never really ends. So it's that's definitely the biggest challenge.
Are you or creators in general having to like communicate to brands to keep them up to speed, or is it vice versa?
Yeah, so through Valeria Inc., so through the agency, I have a 2-person business development team and a 2-person client relations team. And whenever I say that, people think that that's, wild because I only have one talent that we're working with, but we're working with hundreds of brands a year, 10 brands, usually a day, and integrating them into our content. So I have an infrastructure really set in place so that we can do that education. Because the reality is, even though this industry is moving so quickly, the adoption is really slow. So that actually is probably one of the biggest challenges, is that the adoption's slow while the industry moves so fast. So we do a lot of education. We have different tiers of partners. So tiers of, maybe one-off partnerships or just media hits is what I call them. So someone wants an Instagram story or a one reel just for a little media hit. Then there's campaigns, so multi-layered campaigns with different deliverables. And then there's the kind of long-term, year-long partnerships. We've had some of the same partners for the entire 5 years that I've worked in this business, and those partners are who we spend a lot of time and significant time really looking at our data and understanding what's working and what's not. So I've had one partner, like I mentioned, for the last 5 years. Every year of their partnership looks so dramatically different because we're taking the learnings from the year before. So it's a lot of educating partners who, it's not even the employees who work there, it's a lot of legacy companies. If you're looking at legacy fashion or luxury brands, the adoption and the red tape is really tight. Yeah, that's where when I sit down with partners, sometimes I'm a little bit blunt because I have data. I have data from micro, from middle, from macro influencers. I have data that's organic. I have data that's campaign. I have data from paid media and boosting. Like I do have it all because I do have such a big group to look from that the data doesn't lie. So I'm pretty blunt in my observations.
Yeah, which I imagine can come off or can be a bit shocking
to
someone who's working and prides himself as being a marketing type person.
Well, imagine somebody doing this, and this is very common, for 30 years, 20, 30 years at these legacy brands, and then somebody's coming in to say, you have to rethink your entire business. It's both scary, and it can knock the ego because it's completely different than what they're used to. So I definitely appreciate the fear in trying things that are new, and I think that's my biggest takeaway is brands, creators, they can't look at shiny objects just for the sake of chasing them. They have to understand what that change is going to do for their business, and that's where we come in to educate, what that could look like.
What kind of impact do you hope to leave behind in your worker community? And I guess even more specifically, like what sort of impact do you hope to leave for people, I guess for your organization, but then the creators in the creator market?
So my two beliefs are collaboration over competition, and leading boldly over imposter syndrome. Those are my 2 things that I talk about all the time, or the 2 theories. Again, it might be a bold statement. I don't believe in imposter syndrome. I don't believe that it's a real thing. Whenever I get asked about it, I truly don't know what that is. I don't understand it. I've never felt it, because I think that it's an excuse. I think that it's an excuse to not show up or to not do something that might be scary. And so that's what I want to leave. I want to leave, especially women, feeling like they can take big, bold chances, and they can lead boldly, and they can really answer that internal voice, which is what I see so much with creators, especially as a creative person, having this gut feeling that they want to do something different, that they want to be creative, that they want to try something different, and they're stopping themselves. So I just think it's a waste of time. So I really, really want to make sure that people know that they cannot grow and they can't break their mold of whether it's their family, their relationships, whatever that is. They can't break the mold of who they are if they don't try to be who they really want to be. So that's definitely my biggest thing. And then I worked at a marketing company with 90 women, and I've never had a worse work dynamic or a worse atmosphere than working with that many women in one place. So especially being in the creator economy that's so female-based. I think of our 350 members, 3 of them are a male. I just don't tolerate that competition, especially with women. I think when people are feeling imposter syndrome, it's because they are being an imposter. They're doing something that doesn't feel valid or that doesn't feel right for them. And so they're inhibiting themselves by not chasing what they actually really want to be doing. And if you don't believe in yourself and you're not going after your goals or supporting, nobody else is. So you have to do that for yourself first, and then everyone else hopefully will follow. Yeah, I was actually looking at an article that I did around 9-10 years ago, and it's the exact same sentiment. So I think that it's here to stay. I want to wake up and be really excited on Monday morning, and as soon as I don't feel that, it's time for me to move on. So anytime that I've changed my career, it's always been at moments where I go to sleep on Sunday night dreading that Monday morning. So that's definitely what overall success looks like for me. And I travel a lot for work, usually about once a month. And for me, when I leave my kids for the airport, I want to feel really excited for where I'm going. But then that feeling when I get back, where I only travel and carry on because I can't get to my kids fast enough once I land, that to me really feels like success, to be excited to leave, but really excited to come back.
Yeah, that's great. Each year of your life is a chapter. What is the title of this chapter?
Growth, I think. It's interesting because my first instinct is to say growth. I think growth, boldness, something in there. It's my time where I, again, really am not looking for external factors. I'm not looking to, honestly, I have an amazing family. I have great friends. I'm not looking to extend that. I've traveled a ton. I don't feel like there's no stone left unturned for me right now in terms of things that I want to do. Right now, I'm really building for what the next 10 years means. So to bringing this back to ChatGPT, I don't know if anyone's done this, but if you type in, if you use ChatGPT a lot, and you type in, based on what you know about me with my career goals, my family life, what do you think my life could look like in 10 years? That's what I'm building for. It was a really, really powerful activity for me to see. And I use it all day, every day. So it knows everything about me, from what meal plans I want to create to like issues I'm having with my kids or my relationship, all the way to speaking engagements and prepping for different talks and programs for creators. So for me to see what it could see was really inspiring. So I think it's a build decade.
What's one business lesson you've learned the hard way that you'd share with other founders?
So making hard decisions is part of the game. You can't avoid it. And the biggest one is if you have a team member or team members who you don't feel good around working around them, so you don't feel like you can be yourself, or you can show up as the leader you want to be, or you don't feel like you have the same shared vision. And it's just something sometimes as simple as being in a room with someone and just feeling, you can feel that energy when you really click with someone. And there's that opposite energy when you don't. And you really shouldn't have people who work for you that don't align. And so I've learned the hard way over the last 15 years that as soon as you feel that feeling, like I'm saying 48 hours later, that person needs to be removed from your organization. And when that happens, even though it feels scary, even though some of the roles that I've done this with are the roles that are responsible for every part of my revenue. But as soon as you make that decision, the opportunity that comes from having somebody on your team that does align with the type of leader you are and your vision, it has exponential growth on your business. So that's my number one.
And also, obviously, trusting your gut.
Yeah, I think I've done that so many times, and when I haven't trusted my gut, and I think that some leaders maybe don't have a good gut, but when you do have a good gut, and that's where in a community around you to call you on it is great, but when you do have a great gut, you have to follow it, and any time that I didn't, I wish it did, and I know that I would be having more growth, more revenue, a larger business right now if I had made some of those hard decisions earlier. So moving forward, and for I'm so passionate about this, moving forward for any business person, they need to take those leaps.
Yeah, as challenging as it may be.
Yeah.
I guess, and it's probably your ego that's challenging you.
Or it's fear.
Yeah.
Right? When we're talking about removing employees, especially in an entrepreneurial business, and especially a business that moves so quickly, you can't afford to have an employee that isn't going to help you grow. And sometimes that looks like an employee was amazing for stage 1, but they don't have the skill set needed for stage 2 or stage 3. So it doesn't say anything about them or how you hired them. And sometimes it's just as simple as, I need something different for stage 2.
So how much did your schooling play a factor in what you're doing now? And what is the top course you think everyone should take?
So there's a big buzz around not going to school now and what school actually does for your career, what it teaches you. But I do want to break that a bit to say sometimes it's not about what you're actually learning, it's the work ethic that you're learning. And my worry is that people who don't have that proper schooling, who have to show up for classes on time and assignments and submitting them and speaking in front of classes and presentations, there's key skill sets that I see in people who haven't had that kind of work ethic and experience who are missing. And so school for me, whether it's not really the courses and the actual things that I learned, it was definitely the work ethic and showing up and making sure that I was better tomorrow than I was yesterday, that definitely shaped it. And the number one it changed my career probably, course is public speaking. And whether it's in school, whether it's a founder who's 45 and decided to quit their job and become a creator, I think everyone needs to take a public speaking class. Speaking eloquently is such an amazing tool. Communication is definitely the number one tool that I think is what sets amazing leaders apart from average ones. And being able to communicate to your team, communicate above, communicate below is so important, and public speaking class, even if you don't public speak, I think is so important. Even if you don't speak, and at the time I didn't think I was going to speak, and now I'm speaking on stages every couple months, so you just don't know. So it's the communication skill for sure, but it's also really successful people speak. And so if you want to be successful, I think you need to learn how to speak properly.
Yeah. I mean, communication in general, I think, is one of the more challenging things that humans deal with.
Yeah.
Like express your ideas confidently on the fly is such a skill.
So this speaking teacher that I had, this was at OCAD University, so I did a couple years there, and anytime that I would say or but or just or have any filler word, she would make me start from the beginning. It didn't matter if I was 35 minutes into a 40-minute talk, you were done. Wow. And so she was really harsh, and I really, for my personality, it worked. But I really loved her harshness of just, no one's gonna take you seriously. I didn't take you seriously just now, so why would somebody else? And she was so harsh with it, and that skill set has really, really helped me.
Wow, that's wonderful. And all right, so do you believe in the term work-life balance?
I do not believe in the term work-life balance. I believe in setting yourself up for success. There's no such thing as just balance falling on your shoulders or being able to magically understand what that work and life balance look like, especially in an economy and a career that's changing so often. It's about setting yourself up for success. So what that looks like, what fuels you, what gives you inspiration, blocking your calendar, being really clear on what you need out of your day and being really harsh on those boundaries in your calendar. I think they say that the number one tool for success is time blocking. And so I think that setting yourself for success definitely should be the new buzzword to work-life balance. And I'm so passionate about that. So my entire house is set up by habit stacking. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the vitamins that I take first thing when I wake up are next to my night table. What I do when I eat breakfast is next to the fridge. When I work out, my headphones are down there ready to go with a charger next to it. So there's no boundaries that I have to do. There's no things that I have to think about in my day-to-day life, honestly, that aren't already thought through for the week. My food's done on the weekend, my grocery shopping, whatever that looks like. So again, in my times where I feel burnt out or like I'm losing control or I don't have that work-life balance are times when I haven't set myself up for success.
Atomic Habits, is that one of the reading requirements for your team or something?
So it's so funny because I've never read it.
Okay.
So this is just something that I think I always did. Since I was a kid. I just had these rituals, and potentially a little obsessive, but I had these rituals that I just needed in order to show up. So I have my own to-do list protocol that I'm very passionate about. So that is something that I teach my team. It's probably covered in a lot of those books, but it's a time management to-do list tool where rather than focusing on the actual items that need to get done, it's the time that it's going to take you to do that. And it's all about trying to minimize that time and doing what you can to make yourself more efficient so you have more time to blue sky think, especially if you're more of a leader. So no, we don't read it, but maybe we should. Yeah, I know people talk about it a lot. I should read it, but I'm like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm just going to think that they plagiarized me. I'm just kidding.
What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.